Welcome to Local Leverage, your competitive edge in business. As always, today's show is brought to you by PropertyRadar, the hyper-local lead generation platform for small local businesses. Today, we're joined by Ryan Grant, the co-founder and president of Neo Home Loans and one of the most trusted voices in modern mortgage planning. Over the course of his career, Ryan has funded nearly $2 billion in mortgage loans, building a reputation for transforming the way people think about home financing. On today's episode, we're unpacking how mortgage brokers are redefining their value in relationships with both consumers and partners. If you're a real estate professional, you're going to want to hear this. Let's jump right in. Ryan, thanks so much for being on the Local Leverage podcast. We appreciate you being here today.
My pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, so I really want to just get into the weeds with you and kind of share some of the sauce with our listeners, and hopefully they can take away some actionable insights and advice from you. Boy, I'm curious. I mean, it's been a bit of a roller coaster over the last several months and things. And I'm curious what sort of loan products have been working best across your organization in the last 30 days or maybe in the last quarter. Are there any standouts in terms of traction or borrower demand?
What we're seeing is we're seeing a lot of people who are interested in buying a home. They're just not, they haven't made the decision to buy a home yet, right? And that's where I think there's a big miss in our industry today is that, for decades, there have been more people who actually wanted to buy a home and needed a mortgage than there were mortgage professionals, right? And so business development wasn't as challenging. Right? It was easier to lead generate because you could get someone from I think I want to buy a house to into a home in 30 to 60 days,
Right.
right? Because affordability was much better. Interest rates were lower. There was more inventory, right? And so, when we are generating client conversations now, we're realizing that many of them just want to learn and they want to know what they can do and they want to, see what their mortgage payment would be or, kind of test out and do kind of some DIY work, but they're not really ready to talk to a quote unquote salesperson. And so we're fortunate that we've kind of moved up the funnel to be able to have conversations to take people from I'm not sure to I can't wait. Right. And so it's not really the loan product that is the driver. It's really the psyche of the prospective home buyer, right? Because they don't want to talk to a mortgage professional or a real estate professional until they're ready, right? Because they don't want salespeople in their life,
Yeah,
right? Which
sure.
can't really blame them because that's kind of what our industries unfortunately have always been. And so they're trying to do it from afar. They're trying to gather information, but it's really challenging. It's, think of all the variables that go into deciding to buy a home. And most people don't have the education or the ability to do an analysis in a way that takes them from I don't know if I should buy a home to actually being certain and excited and motivated to go do that. So we're inserting ourselves farther up the funnel to help them with that process, right? And then, the loan product is going to be whatever it's going to be, whatever is most appropriate for that client.
Sure.
But that's where we're finding some really unique opportunities today.
Do you see that manifest mainly like people engaging with like an online calculator, or is it more than that requiring an actual engagement with a person?
No, so we have roughly on average maybe 30,000 clients a month that go to our website. Obviously, we're advertising. We're putting stuff out on Netflix and Hulu, and we're putting stuff out in local ads. If you type in ChatGPT, right, we're one of the top lenders that come up for fast approvals and technological advancement and lack of friction. So depending upon what the person's looking for, they get routed into our system one way or another, and they're actually inquiring about a mortgage. They want to know, like, what can I qualify for? They want to get pre-approved in 3 minutes, right? They want what the consumer has historically wanted, which is less friction, fast, right? Like not a ton of engagement with a human because they see us as salespeople.
Right.
And we've been able to, or we're actively working on kind of inserting the professional mortgage advisor into that process so the client can get what they really need, but also get what they want, right? Whereas previously they would have had to have chose, right? I just want online, I want fast, I want cheap, and I want very little interaction with a human. Or other people want the local advice, guidance, education, planning, analysis. Now they get both, right? And so, but they just don't know it, right? So now we have to start to teach them, why it's helpful to engage with a mortgage advisor, why having a consultation is incredibly important, why doing this on their own is not a good plan or strategy. And so we're iterating that process as we go, but that's how people are getting to us.
Yeah, it's got to be a fairly confusing time for most consumers, right? You've got the impact of the high rates and just market uncertainty. You've had, well, now things are opening up in terms of inventory, but you had like kind of constrained inventory. I was hearing recently, about again back to multiple offers on homes and people getting outbid. So it's probably just like a very unsettling time for the consumer.
Yeah, it's just hyper local, right? I mean, there you could literally have a market that is 3 hours away that is completely night and day different, right? One market is multiple offers, low inventory, homes are selling fast, and it's still kind of a seller's market. And other markets, ton of inventory, can't get anything to sell, right? An incredible buyer's market. But the problem is we nationalize our news, right? To say that like it's one thing or another. And the consumer reads these national headlines, but they don't know how it's impacting their local market. And even worse, they don't know how it impacts their personal economy, right? Because we're just looking at like macro economy in terms of like the headlines, but someone's personal economy has nothing to do with that, right? And what real estate and specifically buying a home is about is the uniqueness of that local market combined with the uniqueness of someone's microeconomic personal situation, and how do those two work together? And that's where a mortgage advisor and a high level real estate professional can help someone analyze those two things to make the best decision for their family, right? But we have to get that message out to the consumer to let them know that like you actually need this, right? You just don't need salespeople in your life, right? And we're trying to change the narrative that a mortgage advisor is anything but a salesperson, right? A very valuable real estate professional is anything but a salesperson. Problem is we're fighting 40 years of that being not the case, right? So we're having to, again, work hard to change the narrative there.
I love what you're saying though, and I think that, as I talk to independent mortgage brokers, I try to make that case about the hyper local piece. I mean, there is opportunity to distance yourself from the competition through that local understanding, through the involvement in the community, all these different pieces, and I think that that is the superpower of the kind of the local broker. They can do things that kind of the large brands can't really scale.
Yeah. I mean, we're testing that theory every day because, Better was previously generating the same number of leads, but their conversion was very, very low
Right.
because, you just can't know everything about that market. You're not going to connect with the best agents in that market. You're not going to connect with the best insurance professionals and, estate planning attorneys and, contractors. And so we are now routing these leads to our local teammates and they're having incredible successes, right? Not to mention they can then take those pre-approved buyers and they can take them to the absolute best real estate partners in the market and the best financial planners. And, we're helping our builders in some incredibly substantial ways that they've never really experienced before, right? Because now it's combination of forward commitments to help make it a more attractive property combined with lead generation, in ways that most smaller builders aren't great at. And we're marketing that specific property at a 4.99 rate and
Mm,
get a lot of eyeballs on it, right? So
yeah,
I think there's a ton of opportunity in the builder space, especially with their standing inventory challenges and our ability to help solve those.
absolutely. So let's double click into that a little bit. I mean, break down kind of the tactics of that lead generation flow. What does that look like for one of your top performing products, whether that be a new home or other? I'm just kind of curious if you could walk us through how one of your top LOs is generating those leads or how you're generating those leads for your LOs.
Yeah. We actually showed this on a webinar we just did. And so we can post the link to the webinar in the chat. But effectively, somebody's online, they type in something, whether it's Chat GPT or whether it's Google, right? They're looking for something and then, Better comes up, right? Better or Neo, some capacity, depending upon how we're marketing it. Client clicks on it and now they start the funnel, right? So It asks them name, information, and then address, right? Or basically location, city where they're looking. And then right then it pauses and says, we're looking for the best product and professional for you. And then based upon if they're in a market where we have a local neo mortgage professional, it says, congratulations, you've been upgraded to a local neo mortgage professional. Josh Metal is in Salt Lake City. And, here's all the reasons why Josh is incredible. And here's what he's going to do to help you, right? He's going to increase your offer acceptance rate. He's going to, lower the price you pay on the home. He's going to use seller subsidies to help you, get a much more affordable mortgage payment. And then the client just hits continue, and then they finish the rest of their, process in Josh's or whoever the local mortgage advisor's instance of their application is. We immediately get notified, right? Either we'll have our AI avatar call them immediately, which we have some really cool game film, people being like, did you know how fast that was? Right? Because they're literally like, just click the button, the phone rings.
That's awesome.
Because we're just using technology to solve for speed. And then it will, translate it or basically just do a live transfer over to Josh or his team. We have home loan advisors that are, reaching out to that client to schedule appointments. And so the flow is unique in the sense that we're trying to meet people where they are. As opposed to buying leads where they get 100 phone calls, or trigger leads, or rate table leads where we have to race to the bottom.
Totally.
We're just basically telling our story about the value that the consumer will get, which just creates a higher connection rate, right? Because they're interested in that story.
I also love the fact that you're personalizing it so much, right? I mean, with that example of Josh, right? Here's not only what he's capable of doing for you, but it's like he's his local presence, and I think you're getting all of that benefit of hyper local in that flow. That's really cool.
And then, the great thing is we get on the phone with the client and ask, hey, do you have a real estate agent that you're working with? 70% of the time, the answer is no.
Really, that high?
We get to then, because again, they're very high up the fund. They're early in the learning experience, right? They're in a level of discovery where they don't want to talk to him, or like they didn't even want to talk to Josh, right?
Right.
But we inserted him and showed the benefit that they would receive from it. So now they're open to it, right?
Absolutely.
And then, we have the opportunity to put them with the absolute best real estate professionals that are going to be really valuable, right? Not just showing them a home and getting them into a property. And if they happen to have a real estate agent, then obviously our goal is to connect with that agent and explain who we are and what we do. And obviously, if if there's a potential to create a great partnership there, then we have that conversation. But the goal is to take really great mortgage professionals and supplement and augment and grow their business by giving them more at bats, right? Giving them more people that are interested in housing, and then having them take that to all the best, builders and planners and estate agents in the marketplace. So
Nice.
we're
Nice.
excited about it. We think
Yeah, that's cool.
unfortunately, the mortgage professional is really losing ground when it comes to lead generation and business development. And if we're really honest with ourselves, there's just not a lot of amazing lead generators or business development mortgage professionals. It felt like there were when there was just more opportunity,
Yeah.
right? But what we're realizing now is like it's you have to be great at a lot of things to be a well-rounded independent mortgage professional. But we don't need you to be great at a lot of things. What we need you to be great at is educating the client, great partnership with your agents. And as an enterprise, we've made the decision, let's just help those people so they're, all the weight is not solely on their shoulders.
Yep. No, that's absolutely. I see this day in and day out talking to loan professionals they're not marketers. When I ask them about their specialties or their specialization, they immediately gravitate to the products they sell, not to the real value that they deliver. So and you're effectively taking on that burden of lead generator. What is the ideal prospect or borrower look like for your product? Is it, we take this example of a home buyer. What are the borrower traits or life stages that represent a good signal or a good fit?
As much as I'd love to say, we have like a specific avatar, because of the way that we're marketing broadly, it's all over the map, right? It's everything from first-time home buyers to, credit challenge clients, people that have, down payment challenges, to move up buyers, right? Move down buyers, investment properties. We kind of have a whole gamut of clients that we're talking to, which we really want, right? Because we could easily niche market. That's fine, but let's just open it up to the broader, the broader community and say, look, like if you want to learn about your options in real estate, whether you own real estate today or you don't, right? Like you can have a conversation with someone who's not going to sell you something, right? And that gives the opportunity to talk to a wide variety of clientele. Typically a lot of what we see are people, again, who are early stage, right? They're just, or, also quite a bit of what we see are people that are, which is telling, they just went into contract. And, nothing sheds light on a value proposition more than realizing like Mr. and Mrs. Smith have been pre-approved with XYZ lender for months. And now they go into contract and they're calling us.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just because that's the only lever the consumer has at that point. They're completely out of control other than trying to manipulate the interest rate, right? Like we got to find something lower. There's got to be something lower out there because the home's more expensive than they want it to be. The, down payments higher than they want it to be. The taxes are higher than they want it to be. Right? Insurance costs have gone up. Those are higher than they want. So like they can't control any of those, but they can control that interest rate, or they
Yeah.
believe
Or
they
try
can.
to. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we as mortgage professionals it was very eye-opening for us. Like, guys, because we, our whole careers, we've never had lead generation like this. We've always been out there shaking hands, kissing babies, talking to realtors, getting referrals, right? We've never really had referrals to
Right.
give. We've never been first to the consumer. And so now that people are calling us when they're under contract, it's like, why are you doing this? Right? Like, did your mortgage professional not provide enough value? Did they not show you the long-term benefit? Did they not help you get that offer accepted in a way that you find value in? Like, are you genuinely just looking for the cheapest interest rate? Because if you did, you should have done that months ago. Right. But I think as mortgage professionals, we don't do a good enough job at explaining our value proposition beyond the transaction. So the client sees every lender is the same.
Yep.
Right.
Okay, that's right.
We don't tell them how we're going to help them before the transaction in very meaningful ways. Like, look, Mr. and Miss Smith, you got this offer accepted at a lower price, right? Even though you beat out cash offers because of what we did. Right. So going to look for a lower, cheaper version, it's like, getting to the verdict section of your murder trial and firing your attorney right at the end, right? Bringing in the public defender so you can get the innocent call and not have to pay someone. So like we really do a good job of helping our clients understand how we're going to help them substantially before a transaction, what we do during, but most importantly, how we help them after. So when people go into contracts, they're not searching for answers, right? They don't feel out of control. They don't feel like this is happening to them, right? They feel like this is happening by them and with them. And that's just something that I think the mortgage industry needs to do a much better job of. Otherwise, we're just going to race to the bottom.
Absolutely. No, it's a great distinction. I mean, I think that has been the way, like, it's been very transactional. It's just by kind of rate shopping or whatever. And so, unless you bring that to the table, the consumer is kind of already in this mindset of it's just transactional. So
Yeah.
you have to kind of break through that. Yeah. So what led you to that decision to focus more broadly in lead generation versus a niche? And I'm assuming very early in your cycle, you're still trying to then tease out what category or niche they fall into so that you can message appropriately.
100%. We have client avatars that that are built into our CRM, right? So every client avatar has a unique journey that they go on. They're scored differently in terms of our follow-up strategies based upon their propensity modeling. And this is not just our past clients, but this is any of our prospects as well. And I think that's something that our technology uniquely does is can it can message the consumer the story that will most resonate with them as a unique avatar, right? Whereas most people, it's like, well, they're in a application stage, so everybody gets the same message, right? Or they're in a pre-approval stage, everyone gets the same message. Or they're in a 6-month follow-up campaign, everyone gets the same message. Like, it's not. You might as well save the money on the CRM, right? If each avatar isn't uniquely followed up with appropriately in a way that speaks to them, right? You're going to get a lot of unsubscribes and a lot of people who don't want to hear from you. But the way that our technology works is we, very quickly create the avatar of the client through our conversation, right, through the way that they communicate with us. And then it puts them in the right journey with the right type of, disc profile, the right type of,
Interesting.
um, you know, challenges they're having with the opportunities that they have, right? If they're affluent, right, they get different messaging than somebody who's, needs help with down payment or needs credit improvement, right? So
Yeah.
um, that's where we're like, if we just cast a wide net and then we make it hyper personalized, and then each person is really kind of on a niche at that point, it's a better opportunity for us because we can have more meaningful conversations and make a bigger impact.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that level of sophistication that you're applying. Once you have those avatars or those profiles, kind of what's the process for you and your team to both write and workshop those messages to make sure that you're delivering something that's going to resonate and cuts through the noise? What does that look like?
Well, our team doesn't have to do a lot, like our production team, because it's really done for them, right? So between our marketing team, our analytics team, the group that runs our CRM, and then Tin Man, which is our internal technology, there's this kind of ecosystem that creates that for the production team. So all they need to do is have the conversation. The client will already be in the CRM, right? The production teammate or the mortgage advisor would just need to categorize them under a certain journey, right? And then they're off, right? And then the mortgage advisor will show up and they'll say, hey, this text just went out to this person and they scheduled a meeting or they scheduled a call, or, this video just went out to this person about their status, or we connected them with credit repair and they're on this journey, and you'll get updates as it goes. So a lot of it happens for the team.
Up in the funnel higher. Yep.
Yeah, we just, we've kind of created the engine that they get to run their business off of. And, they just log into the system every day and it tells them what conversations they should be having, who they need to be calling. Leads are generated for them, throughout the day, based upon the number that we set. But what we don't want to do is we don't want to turn people into effectively, for lack of a better term, call center originators, right? Like these are people who are career minded mortgage professionals, right? They're entrepreneurial, they're independent. They, for years have ran their business on referral, right? Referrals from agents, financial planners, builders, clients, database, sphere of influence, social. And all we want for them to continue to focus on that. And we're just going to sprinkle more opportunities on
Yep.
their business to really take it to that next level. Um, and then we have essentially a way to support the growth of their team as they continue to scale. So our team is, fortunate they don't have to worry about who to hire and when to hire them and what they do and how to pay them and what to do next. And they don't have to worry about how to execute on the long-term commitment to the client because we've built that in, right? We have client success teammates that do that, and our technology and our systems do that. And so we're looking for people who are great leaders, business development teammates, great kind of uh, well-established, highly competent, financially literate mortgage professionals, that we could take their career to a level that would be challenging to do because you can't. It's hard to break into the top 10% of realtors, right? Like you need to have something really unique. So if I can come to you and say, hey, we have 2 to 4 closings a month that we're buyers that we need great real estate help with, would you be open to having a conversation? Like no one says no to that, right? And we're not charging them for that. We don't take 30% of their commission or 40% of their commission. And so we just want to give people, give our mortgage team the ammunition to go be their best self, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
open doors that would have been challenging to open otherwise.
Yeah. No, you're just get the right professional and then tee them up with opportunities, which I think is a great play. So when we were thinking about that lead generation, that kind of teeing those folks up, and you're considering, I'm assuming many campaigns, how are you going about selecting the right channel for the audience that you're going to chase? And what are the factors that influence whether you're going I think you mentioned like Hulu and a bunch of different things, but there's probably email and phone and direct mail and who knows what else.
Yeah, well, you would want to get Jess Mana on for that one. She is the head of growth and marketing strategy for our group, and she is just brilliant. Her and her whole team. Pat, who's kind of like I call him our lead czar, but he's so much more than that. Like, and then our technology team. So like the combination of their brains and the technological execution is something I've never experienced. But Jess just got back from the Google Lead conference, and like she's really tied into how to get our message across to the consumer, right? How to get people's attention in a attention deprived world, um, and it's really amazing to see like how they can use their capabilities like to get real specific on like one builder account in one locality, or how we can go more broadly from a state by state perspective, or region by region perspective, depending upon what the message is that we want to do. And so I am fortunate that I don't have to know that, but I am fortunate that we are the beneficiary of it. And so if you ever want to know how Jess and her team do it, she'd be a good person to talk to.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like, I mean, you're applying both kind of this kind of broad regional or state by state level as well as this hyper local premise, which I think is really cool, kind of that blending. All right.
A very specific team in Salt Lake City that has an incredible opportunity with some amazing real estate professionals. And so we want to drive more business there because we want to support those real estate agents, right? And we can do that in different locales or different areas, or we can just blanket the state of Utah and open it up that way. And so, the change to local, right, is something that neither Better has ever done, and we had never had leads coming to us, right? So like we're iterating this and improving upon it almost daily, right? And the more people that we add to our platform, and the more great mortgage professionals we bring in different markets, right, the more we see what that market needs and how to be more specific, right? Or we just need to step on the gas more broadly, right? And so it's a cool partnership to be able to kind of navigate the world we're in today.
This is probably self-explanatory, but how do you go about measuring success within these efforts? I mean, there's, obviously it's how many at bats can you provide and what their conversion is, but I'm just curious of how you're looking at maybe this, above that level. Like, what is it that you key into to determine whether something's successful or not before it actually reaches, underwriting?
Yeah. What's really interesting is we found multiple opportunities for success that have kind of branched off from this. So, one really eye-opening one was that in order for somebody to kind of be on this client connection initiative, which is our lead program, they have to go through a training platform to do it, right? So we have what's called game film here at Neo, and so our team is recording all their dreams and goals calls with their clients, their client consultations, where they're educating, giving advice and analysis, where they're showing our value proposition. And then when someone goes into contract, we do a contract meeting that helps them understand what's going to happen for the next 30 days and 30 years. And we've essentially just amassed all of our best and brightest doing those calls, right? And people now, if they want to get onto this lead program, they have to watch all these calls, right? And they have to go through hours of calls. They have to take tests, right? And then they submit their game film to their leadership in order for them to like say, okay, you're ready to do this, or hey, we need to get better here, or this is how you can show your value more. And we did that because we wanted we wanted to make sure that everyone was operating consistently, because it's hard to say like, well, this person's better at conversion than this person. Well, why? I don't know. They just are, right? But if everyone's doing the same thing, operating under the same, process, giving the same value proposition, having the same conversations, like helping people understand and educate differently, well, now we know what our baseline level is, right? So
Yeah.
if everybody's coming into the thing, and what we saw is everyone's business grew just organically because of it, right? Conversion was better. Realtor conversations were better because now they're using our value proposition. So that was an immediate success, in that, we've always thought highly of our team because, most people are here because they believe in creating a better financial future for their clients and helping create generational wealth for people. But, we have people that are really good that would watch this and be like, dude, I picked up 3 or 4 things that
Right.
just made a big difference, right? Because it's one thing to listen to what you should do. It's another thing to watch what other people are doing and be like, well, I can do that. That was amazing. I'm going to start doing that now. So that was a big win.
That's a great one. And what a great training tool for that. And it seems like also a great opportunity to apply AI as kind of like a post-call review against that, using that as your baseline. This is what a great call looks like. How well did you perform against it?
Yeah, like what, of the dreams and goals call template, what was talked about, where could
Yeah.
you have up leveled, right? And so there's a great opportunity there. Obviously, we're looking at, conversion metrics, right? So from, lead to contact, right? How are we ensuring that we're getting that person on with us, right? Because it's not like we're batting 1,000 there. So we're constantly looking at how do we, when do we engage them? How do we engage them, right? Because a lot of these people, again, they're not expecting to talk to a human, right? Because that's not how they wanted to enter into the world. They think we're salespeople. We need to tell them we're not. And then we look at, how many of those convert to a consultation, which is to us more important than an application or a credit pull, right? Because a consultation is when we're actually giving advice and strategy, and we may not need to pull everyone's credit; they may not be ready, right? So the consultation, and then obviously, how many people do we help get under contract, and then how many people do we help ultimately get into a home, right? And so we're looking at all those numbers. We're sharing best practices, looking at who's doing well with what, and then another one we have to track very closely is how are we taking the opportunities that we have and providing those opportunities for our business partners, right? So how many of our clients are we getting in front of our agents and our financial planners and our builders? And then ultimately, are we growing our organic business through this effort, right? Are we getting business that we wouldn't have otherwise because we're bringing opportunities to these partners in a way that other mortgage professionals really don't have the ability to, right? And so um, we should see a 2 to 3x growth from organic business from one opportunity that we provide, right? And so that's kind of our hypothesis, current state. Could be more, could be less, but time will tell.
Tell me a little bit more about the partners. I mean, how do you go about identifying and nurturing those partner relationships? And what have you found to be most successful there?
The key to a really successful partnership, any partnership, doesn't matter what it is, could be a marriage, right? Is like, do you believe the same things, right? Like, so what we look for first and foremost is does our whether it's a builder partner, a financial planner, real estate agent, do they believe that we can have a greater impact on someone's generational wealth than we previously have in the past? And if the answer is yes, almost anything can happen when you have partnership alignment. But if the answer is no, if people are not aligned on that, it's really hard for any partnership to work, right? Regardless of how well it might be, executing financially. If our real estate agent doesn't believe that we can change a family's financial future proactively, right? Not reactively, not just because the market did the work, but because we are consistently educating and giving information to our clients and helping them make good decisions and helping them plan for the future and building goals and helping them execute on those goals. If a real estate agent really thinks we can do that and has a heart to do that, we can make anything work.
Yeah.
Right? Same thing with the builder and financial planner. So that's the foundation for where we start. And the challenge we have is that because this has not been a part of the real estate or mortgage world, right? Nobody has ever proactively made a really strong financial commitment to their clients, right? We've committed to being there. We've committed to good customer service. We've committed to, if you need anything, call me.
Yeah.
But in our industry, nobody's ever committed to proactive financial improvement, right? Or proactive growth of someone's real estate or financial livelihood. Um, I don't know if anyone else, maybe there are other people that are doing it, but I think we might be the first. And because of that, we need people who absolutely are believers in what we can do. And there's just not a lot of them out there because they haven't been presented with the opportunity yet.
Yeah, no, I think that is very unique. I don't know that you're the only, but I mean, I think that um, so often, the partnerships or relationships are just kind of window dressing, and you're just trying to stay in front of somebody for the sake of getting an at bat opportunity when they have the next deal. Um, so let's break that down a little bit further, because what what value are you actually driving there to that relationship? How are you demonstrating kind of that financial development and improvement? What does that really look like to the partner agent? Yeah.
So let's say that you're my partner agent here, right? And I would say, look, I would ask you a simple question. Do you have a mortgage partnership or do you have a mortgage relationship? And
Most relationships.
when that question is asked, they're like, well, I probably just a relationship, because they actually take the time to like think through like, well, a partnership means that we're both adding substantial value. Most real estate professionals rightly believe that they're adding 100% of the value to the relationship because they are the ones that are referring all the business. Now, the mortgage professional, if they're really good, they'll do a great job, like incredible customer service, close on time, be like, they'll do the things that are expected of them, but
Right.
not much more, right? And it's just because they don't really have the tools or capability to do much more, right? And so in our world, we say, look, we're going to help with two very important aspects of your business initially, right? That could grow into something more substantial. The first thing is we want to bring you opportunities the way you bring them to us.
It's huge.
All of the business development and lead generation should not fall on your shoulders, Mr. and Mr. Realtor, right? Like we should be collectively working at finding people who need our help as business partners, right? So if we're bringing, 2 to 4 closed transactions a month to the table, right? We would expect that we have a business partner that could match or exceed that.
Yeah.
But again, most mortgage professionals don't have the capability to do that.
Yeah, I mean, that's huge. To the degree you're bringing opportunity to them, and maybe as you outlined already, I mean, the market conditions, your technology, your process are really enabling that dynamic to completely invert. Now, all of a sudden, you're the one bringing opportunities to the agent. I mean, that's huge.
A lot of agents, when we reach out to them, because we see that they're doing well in the market, we see they have a great brand in the market, we see that their marketing and their personal brand is in alignment with at least tangentially with what we believe. We'll reach out to them, and that the response is like, hey, come in and let us show you why you should choose us, right? So they're actually pitching us on why why we should choose them as a great business partner, which is, it's important. Like we want that, right? We don't want to just be like, hey, if you like us, we like you, right? I mean, the alignment is super important, right? So we want to know, like, why do they do this? Right? What do they believe? What's their follow up with their clientele after the fact? What are they promising their clients? And then this kind of speaks to the second value proposition is most real estate agents are also racing to the bottom, right? Just like the mortgage industry is. Right. So do it for less and less. You just saw Rocket and Redfin announce, if you use a discount Redfin agent, then Rocket will discount the mortgage even farther. Right. So it's just who can get to the bottom the fastest.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is, look, Mr. and Mrs. Realtor, you're going to run into a lot of this. Like there's real estate companies popping up every day that are, AI based, that are, $5,000 flat fee, that, they'll make very little and they'll use the commission to then, do a buy down on the mortgage, which is, not a new thing. There's a lot of those. And so we say, look, as a real estate professional, how do you answer the question, why you? Right? When someone says, hey, Mr. Keller Williams agent, it says here that you're charging me 3% to help me buy a house. I have someone who's willing to do it for, $2,000 flat.
Right.
Like, why you? And you
Yeah.
cannot say customer service. You cannot say relationship. You can't say speed. You can't say marketing. You can't say negotiating. Why? Well, because the $2,000 agent is going to say all the same thing.
Exactly. Anybody can go open the door. Yeah.
And so, like, let's really be cognizant of, like, for what you are charging, what value are you offering that other agents cannot say? Right. So our agents have the ability, like our partner agents have the ability to say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, look, I don't think you should pay anyone 2.5 or 3% to help you buy a home for the next 30 days, even 60 days. I think it's too much. Now, I think our industry's gotten away with it for a long time because it was just the standard and it was the norm. But the reason why you're going to pay us 2.5 to 3% is because we're going to be the most valuable team of people in your life in every aspect of real estate or finance for the next 30 years. right? We're going to help you grow your generational wealth through real estate and finance in ways that you wouldn't do without us. We are proactively committed to helping you and each generation of your family for years to come, right? And that is worth way more than any transactional fee. So I will show you how we do that, right? And then the agent gets to show them all the things that we do as a partnership. And now they're not comparing apples versus apples, right? Now they're
Yeah.
comparing apples versus oranges. And our agents love the fact that they can lean into that value proposition of before, during, and after in a way that their competition just can't.
And I hope everybody goes back and reviews this last 5 minutes of conversation a couple times, because I think you're spot on. You're reframing the relationship with that consumer drastically from what has been the norm. And I think that that is a great example of how to um, uh, totally change the dynamic, differentiate yourself from everybody else. Doing this at a hyper local level as well, like that's a win-win-win. All that's awesome. Good stuff there.
Thank you. We're excited about it.
Yeah, you should be. I think that I'm not seeing that across the board, and there's a lot of lessons to be learned there for our folks.
Yeah, I think the problem is that most mortgage companies, they hire a lot of very independent, entrepreneurial minded business owners. They bring them into the world and they just say, just do your business however you want, right? You just bring us the loans and we'll fund them, right? Wholesale says that. Almost all retail says that. But what people are really looking for is they're really looking for a solution to where their value proposition is actually supported from an enterprise level, right? So if it's not in the DNA of the organization to do this, it's really hard to ask any one person to do it, right? Because prior to creating an organization that had all of this that was done with me and for me, I couldn't look at you in the eyes and say, we're going to be the most valuable team of people in your life for the next 30 years on a proactive
Right.
basis, because I'd have to be a sociopath to say that, knowing that if I'm helping 20 families a month, I can't do that for 240 families a year times 10 years. There's no way I can make that level of commitment. But if you have an enterprise supported infrastructure and you have a company that really believes in that being the kind of pillar of who they are, it gives everyone the opportunity to say it, right? Knowing that the execution is going to happen right behind them. And so that's where I think it's hard for people to do that unless you've built it as a DNA kind of marker.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you're able to find these opportunities and then reframe in such meaningful ways. I think this is great takeaways. And again, I want people to really absorb this, because this is different, and these are the types of things that represent major unlocks for growth. So.
Yeah, glad it was helpful.
Yeah. Let's land the conversation here. I think that's a great place for us to start. I want people to dwell on that. And if you found value in this conversation, please subscribe. Make sure you pass this on to friends and colleagues that can also get value from it. And Ryan, just want to thank you for the time and sharing so much openly about your secret sauce. It's great stuff.
Happy to do it. Help anytime.